Good evening, good evening, good evening. How y'all doing today? Listen, today is a wonderful day. I know you guys last week we didn't have a show because the air conditioning out was in Summer Coast Studios, but we're back. We're up. It's good and cool in here. And I just want to say tonight is going to be a special show. I have the honor, the distinct pleasure of introducing to some and presenting to others a man that is very special. This is man to me. This man is an icon. His family is legendary. He is steeped in history in Georgia, and he was wronged at one point for just being an American citizen. So I'm not gonna hold you guys up, and without further ado, I'm gonna bring in my special guest today, my brother, a mentor. Now, I'm gonna take him on as a mentor, and I hope to keep in touch with him. My brother, a great man, somebody who has done some great things in my city and all over the world. My friend, Mister, excuse me, retired Major Gamaliel Turner. How you doing this evening, sir?
How you doing? And thank
Uh,
you, Darryl, for inviting me in and allowing me the opportunity to speak to your family.
I appreciate that, sir. How you? First of all, let's start with this. Let's give a little history about where you're from. Your how do you get to the place that you get to? Because we're going to talk about something that's kind of deep and it's kind of it's very troubling. But we want to get all the pleasantries out of the way first before we get to the deep stuff. So please let the people where you're from and how you came about and how did I come to know you?
Well, it's simple. I am a Georgia resident, born and raised right here in Georgia, and I think for the content of tonight, we need to preface that by recognizing born in the 50s in the segregated South during the era of Jim Crow.
Yes, sir.
Right there in Atlanta at Fort McPherson Hospital, uh, and grew up. Went to Turner High School, Frank Hill Stanton Elementary School, Turner High School. From there to Fort Valley State.
Okay.
Yay, Wildcats, go Wildcats.
Go
Uh,
Hawkeyes.
and was commissioned out of Fort Valley.
Oh, okay,
And,
okay.
and straight from Fort Valley to Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning. I am retired now, retired major. I was 11 Bravo, which is an infantry guy, airborne Ranger trained.
Wow.
Uh, that's it, and retired up at Force right back in my beginning.
So, cause you were telling me off air that you were the first black born at Fort McPherson.
Yes, again, point of reference, segregated South.
Right.
Uh, we did not have many opportunities. It was only because my mother uh, was having an emergency birth, and the closest hospital for her was at Fort Mac, because
Wow.
we lived right there off of today Martin Luther King, then Hunter Street. So we were, 2.5 miles away versus trying to go to Grady or Hughes Fallen at the time.
Wow. And just to be clear, and I want everybody to understand this, him going from being the first black born at Fort McPherson to now a black man owning all of Fort McPherson is just something just mind blowing. It can only be a God thing that we can have something like this happen. So,
A lot can happen in a very short period of time, and
right.
that's the piece that we have to recognize.
Right, right, man. So we're going to talk about how I got to know who you were. Now, I'm from Columbus, Georgia. You live in Columbus, Georgia. You have I had the okay. I love YouTube. I'm always on YouTube. I'm a truck driver. I drive from where I live to Indianapolis and back forth every day. And so I'm always watching a podcast. I'm always watching a video. Always trying to learn something. And so, yeah, I just so happened, I'm telling you, it's a God thing. I just so happened, and because I had never heard anything about what was happening.
Okay.
I'm here for my people. I love my people, and I want my people, black, white, everybody. I want everybody to advance as much as possible. But I was on YouTube and I saw these. I saw an interview with a man named Greg Palast.
Okay.
He's a forensic journalist, and he goes and he looks at things from a different perspective than other people get to look. He goes into the nitty gritty. And I came across this documentary that has a lot of great people involved called Vigilantes Inc. And this
Yes.
documentary was centered around voter suppression from starting in the state of Georgia and spreading abroad. So Georgia, for all those who don't know, has a law, SB 202. It's 98 pages of a law that says XYZ, XYZ, whatever, whatever. We're not gonna get into the gory details, but there's one particular part that this show tonight is centered around, and that's how you came into play. So tell me how SB 202 and everything else came to affect your life.
Well, here's, again, like I said earlier, uh, military was working for the government as a contractor, and had actually retired. This is how God works. I was taking care of my mother. She had passed. I was retired, and I received a call from the Navy. Know nothing at all about the Navy, and they asked me to come out and work with them to give them a year. And I said, no problem. Only one thing: get in touch with them and let them know that I know nothing at all about the Navy. Uh, can't even just can barely spell Navy, but if they're still interested in me coming, uh, I'll come. Now,
Mhm.
mind you, I was trying to be a little, flippant with that, and surprisingly, 2 days later, uh, got a call back and says, "It's not important for you to know anything about the Navy. We need you."
Okay.
And and the primary reason, my specialty on the other side of being in the military is capabilities development for the future. So they were going through their transition. They did not have anybody qualified to do that. So I accepted, the position out in California, Port Hueneme. And surprisingly, it's amazing how God works. A lot of people go, oh, I'm going to California, making movies and do all of this stuff and, you know, Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. But I went out to serve the country.
Right.
Uh, and I am an avid voter. Uh, the most valuable thing I have on the other side of my life is my ability and to vote.
Right.
Uh, a lot of people died and went through a lot of, uh, for lack of better words, hell in life,
Mhm.
uh, and sacrificed a lot and lost a lot for my ability to vote. And if we put that in proper perspective, we're talking about the promise to vote at the end of World War II and the ability to vote, in 64.
Right.
Here we are 11 years on the other side of 64. I'm able to vote. And with that, uh, I cherish that right. It's important to me. Support has been important to my family, and more so than anything else, it was important to our people, collective. Uh, you know, having been there when the black man and the woman were told that you can vote, having lived during the time when Martin Luther King died for our civil rights and trying to lock in our ability to vote without duress. We could
Right.
vote prior to, but it was not without being duressed. So while in California, sending in, it all started with the absentee ballots. Obviously, I could not vote in person, so the first thing I did was put in the absentee ballot. And to make the story a little shorter, first time I voted, coming up to the general election, no problem. In the local election, uh, the primaries, I started to have problems with my absentee ballot. The general election, I had problems with my absentee ballot. And for the runoff between Warnock and Herschel Walker's, when all of a sudden I find out that I'm challenged, which was unacceptable.
Right.
And that's the genesis, a little bit of recognizing or exposing, not only to the United States but to the world, that something was going on in our voting system.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, for everybody that think that they know something about the voting piece and parts, whether or not Trump was hollering about his election was stolen from him, and demanding, from Governor Kemp, where my 11,780 votes,
Mm,
all the way up to the 2,000 mule of people of color stuffing the ballot boxes, people voting twice. Uh, that was not us.
right,
It's not us. But you could say things long enough and loud enough to where people start to believe it.
right.
So, but that for me, it began. This whole journey began with that one single vote.
Mm. And I remember that election, when, because a lot of people was blaming, Herschel coming back. Now, y'all can see I'm a University of Georgia fan. People were blaming Herschel for living in Texas. You know, he was basically a plant here, in the state of Georgia. He came, back to Georgia to run to, make sure that people on the right, left, whichever side you want to look, people on the right were able to secure the Republican seat, the Senate seat in Georgia. But we're going to talk about all of that in a few. So Voting Rights Act of 1965 was specifically signed into law to stop racial discrimination. Now, you, sir, you're okay. So let's talk about your history with all of this. Now, you said you were born in the 50s. Now the Civil Rights Act came about in 1965. Well, they talked about it from 64, but it finally got signed into law in 1965. And so your family, your dad, Reverend Harold Turner, he's still around, by the way, because I know we had a
Yes.
conversation earlier in the week about prominent figures of the civil rights movement being around, but we have to include your dad in that as well, because
Well, I appreciate it.
we have to include him. He was one of the founding members of the SCLC. Your dad, Reverend Harold Turner, and you guys lived in between Dr. King and the Abernathys. Am I correct?
Correct. Dr. King, Reverend Ralph David Abernathy, C.T. Vivians, Wimby Holmes Borders, Julian Bunn, Maynard Jackson, all lived in the same community. When I say the same community, if it was not within houses of each other, it
Right,
was less than 5 blocks from each
right,
other. So
right.
everybody was within walking distance within that neighborhood.
And I need people to understand this happened literally in the 1950s and 60s. My mom was
Correct.
born in 1960. My dad was born in 1968. So by the time they came around, you and your family had already done some heavy lifting to get us to the point that we could get to today. Okay. I don't want anybody to gloss over that. I want people to understand that everything that we're talking about is something that we're rehashing that was supposed to be done back then, and it was supposed to level the playing field. But this conversation that we're having tonight is going to prove that the playing field was leveled, but you always have those that want to cheat. You always have those that want to try to take and make it lean in their favor, more to speak. So, but for you, like you said, you went to work in California, on a naval base, and you were trying to do what you've always done because you understand the importance of voting and our voice in voting, because that's what voting is. It's our voice. And I try to tell people, if your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't do so much to try to keep you from doing it. Um,
Amen.
so and it matters because technically only half the country votes. You have certain people that do not vote for various reasons, but those that do, the half that does is the one that really cares about their neighbor or don't care about their neighbor. Okay, so but you were trying to vote and you were doing it like you always do. And there's a man and Columbus, Georgia, Muskogee County. I want you guys to lean in, and I want you to understand what I'm saying is not a lie. This is not a fallacy. This is absolute truth. And I'll put the link in this. I'll put the link in this video so you can go and see the movie for yourself. The movie is called Vigilantes Inc., starring our brother, our good brother right here. This man in Columbus, he's still around if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, he's still around.
Okay, he's still around. So I was watching this video, and first of all, I was shocked that it was happening in my hometown. I was shocked. I'm like, wow, okay. Um, but there is this man in Columbus. He's the chairman of the Republican Party. His name is Alton Russell. Now, if you see this man, you would think, oh, he's just another white man that lives in Columbus. He just, he has this little cosplay going on and things like that. But if you peel back the onion concerning him, this man is very sinister because you and 4,000 other people were challenged based on some KKK law from 1871 that says you aren't who you are and you don't live where you live. So I'm going to challenge you and say that you can't vote. Am I right so far?
You're hitting it, you're hitting the nail on the head.
Okay.
But you have to understand that their full belief is that even from the Constitution, when you talk about the Great Compromise,
Hmm.
one, we were never counted as a
Right.
full individual, as a whole person, uh, for a whole vote,
Right.
and you had to be a property owner.
Right.
Uh, Women could not vote. Blacks were not property owners, so only the white man was a property owner. So it goes all the way back to our founding fathers. The only argument about the Constitution was, how do we count the slaves? In recognition that all men are created equal. However, there were so many of us
Right.
that it counted us and gave us an equal vote that we could take over the power and change the rules. So at that particular time, they only gave the slave owners,
Right.
the property owners,
Right.
the right to use 5/5 of their slave, as opposed to the total count of the slave, because that would become important later on when, as you had indicated, 6465 during the ratification of the Civil Rights Act. So yeah, you're spot on in terms of the importance of our vote, how they see our vote. Uh, Unfortunately, 2 generations later, we're not recognizing the value of that vote.
Right, right. I get it. A lot of people are apathetic. A lot of people saw what people that you happen to march with, because I remember you telling me that you were a Boy Scout when Dr. King, because people don't know, last week it's been 57 years since Dr. King's funeral and his assassination, and you said you were a Boy Scout and you were able to attend Dr. King's funeral, and people don't recognize how important that is, that we have this history, um, like, it's like this close, especially in Georgia, this center around Georgia, because when I watched the movie, when I watched the documentary, it shocked me because I saw the cavalier attitude, the smugness, and things like that of Alton Russell sitting in your house. He was at your house, and I'm like, you not notice the pictures of that beautiful black woman on the fireplace? Did you not notice, where you were coming? He came in comfortable as if he owned the place. And you and I both know he doesn't own the place. And I was just like, this guy, this guy's amazing. And he basically came in like he owned it. And so that mindset, I know it has to be. I make a joke. I'm like, man, it must be good to be a white man, a rich white man in America, because you did like this. The attitude that he had was, you were there, you experienced it.
But
So I'm gonna let you
let
talk
me,
about it.
you said I was there. Well, first of all, I had to get there.
Okay,
Uh, get there, and that Greg did not tell me uh, until the last minute
that he was going to be
where
there.
that we were going to do this piece.
Wow.
And for your audience, before we get too far, Vigilantes Inc. Again is the documentary that we're talking to. But here was the problem with Alton Russell. Uh, I would say collectively, we're not supposed to know. We took what we saw in that documentary to be what it was, and it was a sight uh, to absorb.
Hmm.
But here, but here's my assessment of it. Let me add something that might not come out in the documentary. I talk about not being a fool in the documentary, and that you talk to fools like that early on in the documentary. Alton Russell being in my house and playing stupid
Hmm.
and playing stupid uh, was not a mistake.
Right.
He thought once again that he had a fool.
Right.
You see, Alton Russell was the chairman of the Republican Party during that time frame.
Hmm.
For all intents and purposes, he was the architect of stealing votes
Right.
out of Muskogee County.
Hmm.
He had raised his hand to the state Democratic Party and says, we could do that. We could try that in Columbus, Georgia.
Right.
And if it works in Columbus, Georgia, we could apply that into other counties throughout
Hmm.
Georgia. And what I'm talking to is challenging votes.
Right.
So 3,000 votes at the last minute was challenged in Muskogee County, over close to 40,000 up in Cobb County.
Right.
Let me go back to Alton Russell in my house. You are chairman of the Republican Party in Muskogee County. You know where every vote lies in Muskogee County.
Yes.
You know how every neighborhood votes in Muskogee County. So coming to my house was not a surprise to you. You knew that this particular neighborhood,
Hmm.
this particular address, did not vote your way.
Right. Right.
He's not a dummy. I don't play him for a dummy. I would just ask that he not play me for a dummy either.
Right. Right.
If you were asked to come to a resident, you in today's world, you're gonna look it up.
Yep.
You're gonna find out everything you want to know about it.
Yes, sir.
And I will tell you that's why he showed up in his little cowboy outfit,
He did. He did. He did.
not knowing that you are depicting yourself just the way we wanted to see your natural self.
Yep. He did.
So once he got here, no, I was not surprised. I thought that he was being very arrogant,
Hmm.
and I like the fact that he didn't mind showing America and the rest of the world
Right.
how ugly they are,
Right.
but how comfortable at the same time how comfortable they are in doing what they are doing.
Right.
Uh, you said you thought that the documentary was very powerful. The election is over. That was a pre-warning to the election
Yep.
of what was happening and what might happen.
Hmm.
If you notice, since the election, the the underlying factor in everything that we are talking about now is the speed in which they're continuing to change the voting laws. I think it was just last week that Mr. Musk was given access to not
Hmm.
only Social Security, but also to the state voting registry.
Absolutely.
See, so we can't be so focused on what the right hand is doing
Right.
that we don't pay attention to what the left hand is doing. Trump said himself, you may never have to vote again.
He said it out his own mouth.
And in a very analog way, they're systematically going in and checking how the collective we vote, America votes.
Right.
And as they get ready to take it to the next level, uh, we don't know what the end result will be. But I will tell you, people of color have never, ever trusted our ability to have our vote counted.
Right.
Same manner that my vote was not counted. Alton Russell said as he walked out of my house, he said, Mr. Turner, calling my name, but not talking to me. He was actually talking out loud. I am going to find out what happened,
Hmm. You know what
as if
happened.
he was talking about the challenge in itself. But what I heard and what he said was they were not supposed to not mail you your ballot. See,
Right.
the way this whole challenge thing was discovered is I did not get my ballot. I personally called
Hmm.
to the registrar's office and says, where's my absentee ballot? Everybody else has had theirs for 5 days. And what I got back was a surprise. And the clerk's voice is Mr. Turner. You're going to have to hold on for a minute. And when she came back, I said, what is the problems? She says, I don't know, but for whatever reason, you have been challenged.
Mm.
And this is a challenge in between the general election and the runoff election.
Right.
But Alton said, hear me now, because I want you to know. I want everybody to know. They were not supposed to not mail you your ballot. If they had indeed mailed me my ballot, I would have received it. I would have filled it out and I would have sent it back in. Nobody in Georgia would have known that there was a challenge out there.
Right.
And I would tell you, even though won the authorization to be able to vote in court for everybody at that time to go be able to vote in court, there were over 50 some total thousand ballots in Georgia at that time.
Wow.
I could almost easily say, out of that 50, that I was the only one whose vote was counted.
Wow.
There was no time. First of all, those people in Muskogee County, Cobb County, and the other county did not know they had been challenged, did not know that they had been challenged. There was no notification, nothing.
Right.
They were absentee ballots.
Right.
Absentee means absentee completely.
Right.
You're not
Right.
physically associated with anything other than filling out your ballot. The
Right.
ugly piece of it is they never received that ballot.
Wow. Wow.
Those few that could have gone in to vote, that probably went in to vote because they were challenged, were probably handed a provisional ballot.
Wow.
But that provisional ballot under their name was challenged. The election has happened.
Hmm.
Announcements have been made. And Warnock barely won that election over Herschel.
Yeah. They did.
And we ask ourselves, how is it that the race could be so close between Warnock and, and Herschel?
Right.
And just a little bit, since we talked about Representative Warnock, for connectivity for you and your audience. I'm going to ask you so that it stays with you. Do you know what Warnock's middle name is?
No, I know it's that first name, Raphael. What is it?
Gamaliel.
That is amazing. And not only that, he pastors the church that you guys had. I mean, you had close
Yes,
relationship with. He pastors
yes.
at Ebenezer.
So yeah, we talked earlier about connectivity
Right.
and how the Lord works,
Right.
and the little signs that are laid out with him. Yes, it's Raphael Gamaliel Warnock.
Wow. That is amazing. But so you mentioned Cobb County. Now, Pamela Reardon, okay. She was in
Yes,
this documentary, right? And I'll say she was funny to me. She was the funniest. She was to me. She was funnier than Alton
the
Russell,
Alpha.
simply because this lady is Canadian. She's Canadian. She moved to the States however many years ago, and she personally challenged 40,000 votes. She knew nothing about these people. She knew nothing about she knew nothing about where they lived or anything like that. This is a lady who wasn't born here. She wasn't natural born American, but she came here across our borders and assimilated to Republican ideals and made it her business in the state of Georgia to challenge people's votes, which anybody who knows anything about history or America doesn't hide anything. Excuse
Yep.
me. I'm like, how do we have anything in here America that's kept to ourselves? They keep certain things to themselves, like an apology for slavery. That's kept to
Yeah.
themselves. They're not gonna ever. I don't think that we're ever gonna see it in this lifetime where they'll say we apologize. We know we did this. But Pamela Reardon, did you have an opportunity to meet her throughout this
No,
ordeal?
but believe it or not, her statement, her actions were not permissible in the court
Oh,
filing against True to Vote.
mhm,
See, I went to court not only to get the right to vote then, but in 23, 24 time frame, uh, Mark Elias, who was Kamala Harris's lawyer,
mhm,
uh, represented his law firm represented the state of Georgia and the voters in Georgia
mhm,
again to the vote out of Texas, the group that provided the list of names. And for your audience, let me tell you where that list of names came from. It's important to know since we're trying to educate for those that have not seen the documentary. They use the post office uh, forwarding mail address. When you change addresses and you put in a change address account, it becomes a part of the change address registry.
mhm,
That is what we use. And we go back to Alton Russell, because we are playing checkers and trying to keep up. They are playing chess. We are playing with today's problems. They are orchestrating tomorrow's problems.
mhm,
Uh, so they use the change address register, and you in 2024, 2025, it doesn't take much to get that, digitize it, sorted by name, sorted by district, sorted by who votes which way.
mhm.
And she took that, as she stated in the documentary, the Excel spreadsheet
Right,
that was given to her. Didn't read it, uh, put it on thumb drive, put it on the thumb drive, and took it down and said, "Here you go."
right,
You said she was Canadian. They used the change of address register, and there's a lot with that too. But took it down. Cobb County says, "Yes, we will allow you to challenge inside of the window of voting that you're not supposed to be able to challenge." See, if they were going to do this challenge, this should have been 90 days prior to the general election.
right.
We're challenging inside to see if it works
Hmm.
in between the general and the runoff, because things go 100 miles an hour there. You don't pay attention to what's going on. But in doing so, here you go. Uh, they are empowered. If you remember, during that same time frame, first of all, everything counts, everything adds up. They were also breaking into Georgia voting offices, register offices, going into their files. They were doing it analog.
Right,
I keep saying that because I want you to understand that they physically, in the past, they've always physically had to do something. If it was the 60s, if they wanted to get rid of our votes after we voted, they physically had to pick them up
mhm,
and throw them away.
right,
In the early 20s, 2000, 21, 22, 23, you still physically had to figure out how to do something. And they were just moving to, if we could get into the data banks of these voting machines, if we could get them, then maybe we could do something. What they're accusing us of, we're not in charge of that. They are.
right,
So here, Pam Withen is with a thumb drive that gives it to an acceptable register, acceptable board, and they said this is acceptable to us. We would take it. It is better to go ahead on and allow these challenges to go because it's to our favor.
right,
There weren't a bunch of Republicans mixed up in there.
right,
They were all Democrats. They were Democrats. They were people of color,
right,
whether it was blue, black, brown, or yellow.
right.
They knew exactly who they were.
Mhm, mhm.
And some of our military folk also got caught up in that. But yes, this was a concerted effort, and it's amazing to me uh, that they so freely in the documentary stated what they did without
Right,
any care or concern.
right. I
One
think
thought
what it
they
is, they saw it, they were sitting across from a white man, and they felt more comfortable with just being their true selves until he confronted them with the people that they hurt, basically. Man, I want people to understand this was targeted. This was targeted at black
Yes,
people and college students, young people. It was the black
yes,
vote and the young vote because they knew exactly, for whatever reason, we as black people have always been progressive. We've always, everything you've given us, we have made it and turned it into something that they today still want and have. But I think when they sat across from Greg, and Greg is the type of person, from what I can tell, you know him, I don't. He seems to be the type of person that's very easygoing. He's gonna ask certain
yes.
questions. He's gonna ask it a certain way, and he's gonna
It's
allow you. He's
Columbo
gonna
thing.
hand you the rope, and you're gonna hang yourself.
Yes.
That's the type of person. He's a
There's a
journalist,
Columbo style of investigation.
right?
So yeah, he makes it very comfortable, and then he hits them in the face. Uh, we had talked a little earlier. What are the major? You have Atlanta, and you have Muskogee County. In terms of county, you have Fulton County, Muskogee County, Cobb County. The vast majorities of the blue vote that's going to make a difference in an election is going to come out of those three counties.
Right,
Uh, so that's why there was a focus.
right.
Think about it. There are, let's say it's 158 counties in Georgia. If
Mhm.
you were able to challenge 3,000 votes in each county, you still talk about a 500,000 votes.
Right.
If you have noticed, every time that they talk or reach into, whether it's SB 202 or any of the other most recent laws, or just a review of the voting files, the number ends up being about a 500,000.
Mhm.
If they're looking at a 500,000 votes one way or the other, we have to recognize that they're trying to take a 500,000 voters, us, off the rolls. So
Right.
we can't afford to allow our friends and other families to sit any election out.
Right.
We as a people should not be sitting any election out. You want them to recognize you as equal. You want to really see them run in fear. Push everybody to talk out loud about not being denied their vote.
Right.
Every vote counts. Every vote counts. It was my one vote or desire to vote that laid waste to all of this voter suppression that we're seeing all over the country. They were able to be successful in Muskogee County
Yep.
because we're a little sleeping hollow.
Right.
We
Right.
allow things to be, and that's why nothing has really changed in Muskogee County in the last 30 something years,
Right.
because everything's okay. You don't push to the left, you don't push to the right. Everybody's fine. You don't bother me, I don't bother you.
Right.
And we should start, not we, you, the youth, the under 40 group in Muskogee County needs to stop complaining
Mhm.
and go out there and take over. This is your county.
Yep.
You can't say my town, my this, my that, my this, my that. If it is yours, then do something about it. If you don't like the crime that's in the city, you don't like how the police are doing, you don't like the mere fact that no industry is coming here, you don't like that all the growth is on the north end, you don't like that there's nothing on the south side, stop complaining. Get off your butt. Go vote. Start showing up in some of these at the NAACP, the Democratic, Muskogee's Democratic Party meetings. Get involved in your community. Start taking your butt to church.
Yep.
We've got to go back to we have to have a foundation.
Right.
All of this hollering about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. If you're not together as one, if you don't have a base foundation, you've already failed.
Mm.
You've
Wow.
already failed.
Wow. Let me go back for a second, to the earlier times in the video, 'cause I wanna talk about, George Ryan's in a few. In the video, they were giving a bit of history about your dad, your grandfather, Dr. King, the Abernathy's, everybody in Atla anybody who knows anything about Georgia knows all of the civil rights names, and, but you guys had, like, It was amazing, and the first thing I said, "Oh, this was like you guys had like a modern day at the time, Underground Railroad and system to have meetings and things like that, and for the people." His father is still alive. You said your dad is what, 95?
95.
95 years old. So your dad is still alive, and this still is this man has wisdom, knowledge. I've never met your dad. Now, hopefully one day I might get a chance to meet him. But there was this one lady, I forget what her name was, but she was 92 years old, and her vote was snatched away from her, and she lived in the same house the last however many years, based on what Alton Russell and people like him and Pamela Reardon did. Could you tell me about, because she was Dr. King's cousin. I can't remember her name, and I
Yes, she was
apologize.
Dr. King's cousin.
Yeah, she was
And,
Dr.
and,
King's cousin.
and you just stole that from me too. But yes, that was Dr. King's cousin.
Uh-huh.
And here's what I will give you. Uh, you talked earlier about Pam Reardon, Alton Russell feeling emboldened.
Mhm.
The piece and part, I actually had a problem with the documentary as it was written with my first interview with Greg, in that my physical emotions came out.
Mhm.
And being, infantry guy, supposed to be hard as woodpecker lips, I did not like that. I did not like the emotion, the physical emotion that I showed. But when I saw the end product, I understood that I was not alone.
Right.
There's a certain degree of empowerment and boldness and cockiness with our white brothers that take great pleasure in denying us. But in the documentary, I was able to see that it was not just me, but those that were born during my time frame and and before me, but lived in the segregated South, who have tried to vote, who has wanted to vote, on top of all that have died and that were beating to vote, had the same emotional pain.
Right.
We've been passively, we've been allowed to vote. Passively, they've had hands off the physical us, the physical us. But our vote has so much value that goes against that. Our voice, our voting voice has so much value. They have not neglected not to tamper and to harm it. SB 202 and all the laws written on the other side of that took away the ease of voting. They made it more difficult for us.
Right.
Our precincts are disappearing. They're putting us back in long lines.
Right.
They're causing us to come up with ideas. Say, well, you need to have voter ID. Well, anybody would say that's not an unreasonable request.
Right.
It is not collective, but for those that are the youngest of us and those that are the oldest of us, it is difficult.
Right.
You take away one of the forms is the valid Georgia driver's license, which requires you to have a valid, being able to prove through your social security number, but you close my social security office down.
Mhm.
You make it now. I have to get the information that I need online. Everybody's not tech savvy. This technology and going online was not around 20, 30 years ago. It only
Right.
came on in 96 time frame,
Right.
94, 96.
Right. Right.
So you're asking a lot of people to do something they're not able to do. Imagine me trying to validate my father's voter ID and registration, even though he's been voting at the same place all this time. His driver's license is probably, even though valid, it's a Georgia driver's license, have expired.
Right.
So if I have to go back through to get my father registered to vote, uh, if I wait till the last minute, it's not going to happen,
Right.
and it would hurt him to his core.
All the work he
It would
put
hurt
in,
him to his
all, all the work he put in, and him seeing all of his friends that were literally killed and murdered just for this one right. I can
There
understand
was fear
how.
there. And I will tell you, I knew that my father was one of the scariest of the group. Their connection is they're all Morehouse College graduates
Mhm,
at the same time. They all went to seminary school there at ITC and graduated there at the same time. They all went out and to their separate churches, either in Atlanta or back home at the same time. So, in relationship to the church being a place of gathering during the latter civil rights movement, is because that's where they were ministers or associate pastors.
mhm,
Uh, and for those, my father did not have Atlanta as his home base initially. He traveled in between Gainesville and Middlesville.
mhm.
So those were his areas, and we know about those that focused in on the Atlanta Fuller County area or the state of so we had the state of Georgia was wide, but yes, that was fear, and that's why uh, the house that I grew up in was used in the manner that it was used. It
Mhm.
was easily accessible. It was close, and you could go for a walk and disappear and end up at a meeting place. But anytime they had meetings at the churches, uh, or of any outside of their little enclosed group, there was fear,
Right,
and rightfully so.
right.
What does history tell us? Bombings,
Yep,
assassinations,
yep,
just straight out accidental deaths,
right,
some of which the public, the general public is not aware of. But there were always constant threats. It was nothing to be pulled over for no reason at all. The driving while black is just a continuation of back then.
right, right.
So we have never been looked at as equal, and we've never been treated as equal. And I don't know why so many of us think that we are when we are not.
And so we're having this conversation now, and people may say, "Well, why does this matter now? The 2024 election is over with." Yeah, but 2026 is right around the corner. And there are bills that are being passed or floated, like the CARES Act, where the federal government will make it even harder, not just for black people to vote, but women to vote. It seems as if, though, our current administration is literally trying to take voting back to rich white landowner white men. That's exactly what it sounds like. Elections. This current election was just bought. It was bought and paid for because somebody wanted to avoid going to prison. But we're not talking about him right now. And then the other person who bought the election, he wanted to avoid uh, not getting investigated. So
Yes.
the CARES Act right now, and people, and I want people to be involved, but I also want people to be aware. You know, the name of this episode, "My People Are Destroyed for a Lack of Knowledge." Now, Hosea 4:6, it was talking about something else, but I just used that as a title. I don't want my people to miss the opportunity to do what it is that they need to do based on ignorance, because you have a willful ignorance, and you just got a natural ignorance, something that you don't know. Every chance and every opportunity I get, I'm going to shake the gates. I'm going to shake those cages. I'm going to make sure that this squeaky wheel is getting what it is that it needs in order for everybody. Because all we're asking over the last, from the civil rights movement and beyond, from Jim Crow, from the end of slavery, all we've ever asked for in America is equality, treated like a human being. There's no reason why you had to leave, because you said, because I think you had like 2 days to make it back to Muskogee County in order for you to get your ballot. Am I correct? It was like 2 days
Yes.
before the election.
Mm. Yes. It's that important to me. Everybody does not have that opportunity.
Right.
And if you could tell, uh, a lot of emotion there. I would like to see our youth. I would like to see all the quote unquote influencers especially in these times. You want to
Mhm.
be somebody. You know, Martin Luther King said, "Where do we go from here?" And I tell you that that question was never answered.
Mm.
If the youth want to be somebody, help us get there. Help us define where our tomorrow is. And you said it. Recognize that first we're not equal.
Right.
I would tell you that the civil rights era is over. This is yours.
Right.
These are your problems.
Right.
And you've got to try to fix the collective you have to try to figure out how to fix it.
Right.
And you know, charity starts at home.
Yeah, I told my 19-year-old that. I told her, I was like, this is your future right here. That's I was like, us older people, me being 46, I was 47 saying
Yes,
I'm
that's
older,
right.
but us older people, we had our opportunity. So now, I I was like, this is your future. You have the responsibility to shape it how you want it to look. I was like, you're gonna have children one day, you're gonna have a family one day. And this is on you to, do what you need to do to make sure that, we're able to still operate at any level at this point. But we have, like I said, we have an administration now that says we don't care what you did. We don't care where you came from. We want to do things our way. Okay. Hey, you're a man. You say you still work with the military. You work in a position that not many people get to do. So you understand intelligence. Like you told me the other day, you was like, I'm already in 2050. And I thought that was
Yes.
funny, but it's also true. You have a different perspective than a lot of people, and so but you were able to see the past, and now at this point you're able to see the future with what you've had with what you've done. Um, I just want to say, brother, I really appreciate you, and I thank you. And this is important. This is an important conversation. And if you're open, if people want to call in, if anybody have any questions or anything like that, there's a phone number. We've been at this for a little bit over an hour now, but there's a phone number, and if anybody is interested in calling in and want to speak to my brother Major Turner, 'cause you said you retired at Fort McPherson as well, right?
Fort Memphis was retired.
Man,
First time.
the first time.
Yes.
So
I've been back and forth.
because you a Georgia boy
I've
through and
been back
through.
and forth, but I will tell you, my care concern was for, I have children in the military.
Hmm.
Well, at least I have one child that's in the military now. She's an officer in the military getting ready to go up in the DC area. And I have a son that's retired. So it has been about trying to do the best for my children and other people's children and this country. But on the other side of this, I see where it's important for me to focus more on my local community and my state and my people as a whole.
Hmm.
And that's why I appreciate you so much of trying to get this message out. At least, if nothing else, call one to ask a question because we've got to get our act together. We're
Right.
not equal. We've got to come together once again. Everybody wanted to know how was it back then during the civil rights era. I don't know if I could have done that. Well, this is your era. This is your time.
Right.
And my question now, to the masses, are what are you going to do? Because you're not equal. You're not equal. The collective. We have never been equal. We came close,
Mhm.
and that scared them to death. And if you had noticed, on the other side of President Obama being elected, everything has been about never again.
Yep.
And they are taking down and tearing down every route, every guardrail that allowed that to happen. Uh, we have to pay attention and know that what we see is real. The first order of business within the first month is to let's get rid of all of these protections for these people of color.
Mhm.
They would tell you that they are the ones that have been suppressed.
Mhm.
We are the ones that have been stealing from them. And if you don't know, young folk, they are about passing from the top down to the bottom. This is how you treat people of color. You start to treat them like they were the same as us. So let me show you how you treat them.
Mhm.
So if they are doing that up there, just be ready. Just be ready. The summer is not over yet. It has not gotten hot yet. But you're going to see how at the local level, how at the individual level, they'll start to feel empowered and superior to you. It'll come in little subtle ways. Cut the line. You speak, they don't speak back to you.
Mhm.
Equality or inequality when you get ready to pay for stuff. Being totally ignored when you go to buy stuff. And worst of all, being threatened to have the police call on you because you had the nerve to disagree with them. It's coming. The Marvin Gaye used to say, people get ready.
Hmm.
And my question to you, are you ready?
Well, I mean, and now we're at the point where it's on us. It's on us. We have to, like I said, we have to rattle the cages. We have to stand up. And as Black people in America, everything that was supposed to be for us, the vast majority of other people benefited from the civil rights movement to affirmative action and things like that. None of us. Now, I'm not. I was listening to Roland Martin the other day, and he said something that was amazing. And I never thought about it from this perspective. He was talking about DEI, because all of these are buzzwords now. DEI, woke, all these different things now. What's it? CRT, critical race theory. All these things are buzzwords now. But people that are becoming apathetic and saying, "Oh, just get rid of it, just get rid of it. It doesn't matter. It never benefit us." He was like, "But it did, though." He's like, and all of the money that went out of the federal government in the past couple of years, the vast majority, the Black people got like 1% or something like that. I forget what the number was, but anyway, but it equated to around $10 billion. So yes, in the grand scheme of things, certain programs benefited others, but it's almost like we got the crumbs, and the crumbs were still better than having nothing. Okay, so that's okay. I can get with that. If it goes into the tune of, if it's $1 trillion out there, and we as a people can get at least 20 billion, that's money coming back into our pockets. That's money that we get to use. And you guys, such as yourself, your parents, grandparents, all of these colleagues, did just that. You did what you had to do. Now, we had people who did not care about us at all, yet they were able to sign legislation to help us to say, you know what, this is the best we can do right now. But I don't want anybody, old or young, to get to the point, because I know people personally who had to deal with the attacks over in Selma. I mean, not Selma, in Anniston, in Oxford, Alabama. I know. Um, I'm getting to know you more. I know that your dad. He's still around. Like you said, if this man had to go get his ID renewed just to vote at 95 years old, that's a whole movement within itself, right there. I just don't want people to get apathetic to the point where they say voting doesn't matter, and it just means nothing. That's the furthest from the truth.
Let me give you this because I know you don't have that much time, but here's a little bit that I want. You said that we got crumbs, and crumbs is better than nothing. Uh,
That's what
if I
Roland
was
said.
asked,
That's what Roland said.
and he's trying to explain a point.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I like to peel the onion a little bit back a little further because we only hear, we don't think about what we're hearing. We're not able to put in proper perspective what we're hearing.
Hmm.
Those crumbs allowed us to buy houses, become homeowners.
Yep.
Uh, if the government takes DEI out, that means in their contracting world, DEI required them to allow or to secure a certain number of minority contracts. God bless the soul by quotas, which are millions and millions of dollars of contracts, whether you're a veteran or you are black or Asian, Native American, or female. Those have quotas. They have erased that. You don't get a priority consideration.
Right.
Internally, the all white, the Booz Allens of the world, which they don't like, McDonnell Douglas, they also erased in there that you have to hire within your contract that you're granted a certain number of minorities.
Right.
If you say, if you show up to service a government contract and all your employees are white, it's not a problem
Right.
anymore.
Right.
So when you look at a service community like Columbus, Georgia, against Fort Benning, which a lot of us are contractors, more contractors than they are civil servants, we don't have to be employed there anymore. The only time we would be employed there, once again, are the minimum wage jobs.
Mhm.
And what is, and I would ask not you, but those that hear this, what is your assumption of the number of homeowners versus renters in Columbus, Georgia? I would surmise that the number of renters versus homeowners is larger. Well, with the advent of these laws, if you peel that onion all the way back and the things that's happening, they have they're not only reducing our opportunity, but they are sending us back to minimum wage. They're sending us back to a wage at a time when prices are going up, that where we'll never be able to afford homes. They are buying up our communities. They're giving us a little bit of money for our property, and we will never be able to move back to those communities. So there are a lot of secondary and tertiary effects to all of this. And how did this happen? Because we did not get out there and vote in numbers. None of this would have been happened. None of the rights, the privileges, the opportunity to go to bed and wake up tomorrow with a dream that can be realized. We are losing. They're still in our dreams too. They're still in our dreams too. So that's how important your individual vote is, and that's how important collective vote is.
Mhm.
No, I don't tell you how to vote. I would like to think that you will vote in your best interest, but at least register to vote. At
Right.
least exercise your right. And if you vote one way or the other, maybe at that particular point, if it is not in your best interest, maybe we can educate you. And that's why I appreciate your show to educate your audience on the importance of being
Brother,
informed.
I appreciate you, and that's one thing I do as a responsible voter and an adult. I have friends that children are turning 18, and they post them on social media. I say happy birthday, and at the bottom, go register to vote. And if you're a young man, register for the draft because you have to. There's no use to you, and especially nowadays, there's no use to you getting in trouble being apathetic. Yeah, I know you don't want to be drafted or anything like that, but it's the law. We have to do it. I remember when I
You
turned
will be
18.
arrested.
Say
Any
again.
excuse. We're going back to any excuse
Yep, any
of you
excuse.
not being in compliance
Yep.
affords them the opportunity to use that against you.
Yes, sir. I was telling my son, I was riding with my son earlier, and I was like, I said, use your turn signal. I was like, use your turn. Everything you do, you try you and we're living in times now where you have to do everything by their book in order to keep them off of you at this point. And people say, oh, well, it's not about race, but it is about race. I'm not putting my race above any. I'm just trying to bring my race up to the same level playing field as anybody else. Everything
Yeah.
isn't spiritual. Everything isn't something that some these people, yes, they have evil hearts. Some of these people hate us for no reason at all. And somebody like me, I'm not afraid to speak out. I'm not afraid to say what it is. And I thank God for you and your story and just and the good brother Greg Palace. I promise you, if I ever get the opportunity to shake his hand. I will, and he'll probably get tired by the time I get done because that documentary went way deeper than what we're talking about. We could talk
Yes.
about Brian Kemp and how and I knew when he was still the Secretary of State and how he pretty much stole the election for himself. I was like, okay, we really fit get down in the weeds,
There are a
but
lot of answers to a lot of questions that were brought out in that documentary.
absolutely.
And it's unfortunately that everybody, everybody, in this case, doesn't matter what color you are. Everybody needs to understand that. That's what happens when you hide history.
Yep.
You know, the beautiful thing that Greg did was he didn't speculate.
Mm-mm.
He showed you the documents.
Yep.
He put out the heritage records and showed you this is where these people come from.
Right.
This is where everybody in this movie, in this documentary, has come from.
Right.
And this is how all of these pieces and parts have collided at this one spot to show what's really going on in Georgia and specifically in Muskogee County.
Right.
I mean, this is a documentary explaining to Muskogee County folk, people in Georgia, but just like the other documentary of the killings and the murders in Columbus, Georgia, that 80% of Muskogee County, Columbus, Georgia people have seen. This is the other side of it.
Right.
But you see where our focus is.
Right. Right.
But how do you change that?
Right.
How do you make that not happen? By voting.
Through the vote. Yes, sir.
Through the vote. So when you go down to City Hall and you want to raise sand and you're standing there saying something, those people are going to make it happen if they know that you are voters.
Right. Yep. Because you pay taxes. And that's the
Because
thing.
you
People
pay
have to
taxes
understand it all ties
and you
together.
and you put them in and you could take them out.
Yep. It all ties together. Everything ties together. Economics, everything you could think of ties together with your vote, with everything the police with Columbus, the demographic of Columbus alone says that Columbus can look however it wants to look. The demographics. But we can't do anything without agreement. We can't do anything with people who want to be apathetic and not get out and participate and do their portion or do their job of voting. Voting is so important. I promise you, the first time I ever got a chance to vote was 1996, and the first person I ever voted for was President William Clinton, William J. Clinton from Hope, Arkansas. I don't regret my vote at all. And as I've grown over the years, I've been leaning more towards independent. But I'm not dumb. I'm not I'm not to the point where I can see what I see and I see what people say and I have to use discernment and I can say, okay, this person doesn't because I try to vote responsible enough, not just for myself, but my neighbor as well, because that's what God would want me to do. He told me to love myself, just love my neighbor just as myself. And if I know I don't want to be attacked on the streets for just being who I am, but I know somebody wants to attack me on the streets for being who I am, then that tells me that I need to do something about it. And the easiest way, that's the best way for anybody to protest is to stand in line and vote. It's illegal now for somebody to hand you a cup of water in the line. It's illegal now for somebody like Greg say to get you a slice of pizza. It's a felony nowadays for people to be able to do that. Yet voter intimidation is still alive and well and
It's
legal.
fine. Two things because I know you're going to wrap up here. Uh, Vigilantes Inc. And I'm not talking about the documentary
Right,
because you hit on a lot of things uh, that people only know the word, but they don't know the depth of it.
right.
Vigilantes Inc. is the incorporated name of the Ku Klux Klan.
Hmm.
So in the realm of buzzwords, when you talk about vigilant or vigilante, when you hear it on the news, when you hear it coming out of their mouth, they are talking to each other. They are reassuring each other. Uh, and here we are, we're missing it. We've
Right,
got to be informed.
right,
We've got to be informed. And so far as voting, I would like to think that everybody has the opportunity to be an independent. Unfortunately, right now our choices are binary, but the ability to vote for the best person
right,
is the goal that everybody has.
right.
It's just that the dividing lines now, even for people that desire to be independents. Uh, there's such a vast difference between them that you don't, there's not much of a choice.
Right.
It's got down to either vote for your best interest or you vote with the people that that are popular that are
Right.
not your
Right.
interest. But
Right.
if you just want to be popular, if you want to be a Atlanta Falcon fan and switch to the Patriots because they're winning, uh, or Alabama because they're winning at the time, then so be it. But that's
Right.
not how you're going to be best served.
Sir, we didn't even get a chance to talk about 2000 Mules, which is a modern day Birth of a Nation. That and Greg, he made it was just the
I,
way
I,
I
I would
just
be
want
more
people,
than happy to come back.
brother, I really do appreciate that because I want people to understand this is way deeper than this conversation that we're having right now. This movie is totally free. Everybody that has YouTube and Amazon Prime, you can go and watch just Vigilantes Inc. Pull it up. It's made by Greg Palast. It was sponsored by Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio, Rosario Dawson. She's doing the narration. So this
Martin
is not.
Sheen,
Yeah, right. Who else?
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen, absolutely. He's in the beginning of the movie. This is not something that just somebody made with an iPhone or a VHS camera and running around talking to people about this. No, these people literally put money behind this project. They put time and effort, and they uncovered and they turned over leaves that a lot of people lied dormant over the years. They ruffled some feathers. Some people got upset by it. You're going to clearly see that. I mean, he talks about how on the University of Georgia, black families' homes were leveled, by Brian Kemp and his family to
Mhm.
make. It's just it's a it's. I mean, I just
It's packed. It's actually packed.
it's packed.
As Ray would say, there's some sadness, there's some seriousness, there's some comedy. But I would tell you, if you're a Georgia resident, it's a starter kit for everything that you need to know to get energized and get excited about voting. Once again, more so protecting your vote.
Right, right. And please, this is not a call to action to send you to the streets to get yourself shot down and killed. This is a call to action to get you to be informed about your vote and what it is that they're doing to snatch your vote away from you. And nobody, people always say, and it's a true saying, you never miss something until it's gone. When people snatch your voice away from you, everybody's had laryngitis before. And I'm a trash talk. Anybody who know me know I'm a trash talk. I'm gonna talk trash. But if you get to the point where you can't talk, i.e., vote, then it becomes a different story. Then it becomes something different. You ain't you, and this is not anything against white people because you got great white people out there, but you also got evil white people out there. This is not against black people because you got great black people. You also got evil black people. This is about one issue and one issue alone: the right to vote. We are in 2025 right now, and it seems like it's the middle of April already. It's tax time already, and it seems like January just got here yesterday. Time is moving, people, and people are tearing
Yes,
stuff up every day. Say again. People
there's, time is not your friend,
at
and
all.
and you say you don't visit till it's gone. You're losing a lot
Right,
every day,
right.
and it doesn't stop until you decide to get up there and vote and stop it because that's the only way you're going to stop
Because these
it
people are making it
legally.
their business to take your rights. They're making it their business.
Yes,
You have whole
yes.
communities. You got like they like to talk about George Soros and how he financed and everything. If you see this movie, you're gonna see there are billionaires financing things, but it's not to benefit you. It's to take things away from
They're
you.
having a meeting right now when you wake up in the morning. You
Yep,
don't be surprised if you've lost something else.
yep. And it's subtle. And what's happening in our current administration is they're tearing up things to keep you distracted. And I get it. You can't look at everything at once. I understand that that was their goal. Their goal was to overwhelm you and say, you know what, forget it. I don't want to deal with it. But we can't be like that, especially about this thing right here, because they know the vote is the one thing that keeps them. Like we're at the point we don't even need the electoral college before, but we talked about it a little bit earlier. That's how slave owners were able to count us through the electoral college. We don't need it anymore, but we still here.
It's- Well, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, my brother. We're gonna pick this conversation up again at a later date. brother, I just want to
Yes.
say, man, I love you. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you went through. I appreciate the fact that you were able to come here and share your story. It touched my heart seeing the when you broke down in the movie. I was like, this man really feels something, and it was good seeing you love on your dad. It was good seeing you talk to your family and things like that, and you guys still on the table that such important documents and plans came about. It touched me, and I'm like, brother, I really appreciate you. I really thank you a lot, and I got your back. You got my phone number. You call me whenever. I'll make the time. I when brother, thank you. I praise God for you, and I bless
Thank,
you, and
thank
I
you.
thank you.
I thank you. I'm here to support you, and I will let Greg know uh, your feelings and appreciation. And anytime that he's near, wherever you are, I'll make sure that I get you all connected.
I appreciate that, my brother. God bless you, everybody.
Yeah.
Major retired Gamaliel Turner.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna put you in the back, my brother.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, people, that's our show for today. Listen, this is a call to action for you to stand up and take care of yourself. Take care of your vote. We have children that are being birthed every day who need to understand what it is that we're dealing with. Um, I am so thankful for this man and his time. I had sent him a message a long time ago. I didn't think I would ever get a chance to talk to him because he's a busy man. But this is a story. This is a message that everybody needs to. You need to really pay attention to. The name of the movie is Vigilantes Inc. It's on YouTube. It's on Amazon Prime. And I thank you guys for tuning in and watching today. Um, Hopefully we're gonna pick this up later on. But I just want to say, man, God bless you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. Next week, I'm not really sure if we're gonna do a show because it's gonna be Easter with this being Holy Week. So I really appreciate you guys, and I want to say I thank you for showing up. As always, email me, call me, and we'll talk about this another time. All right. God bless you. Peace. Hey, little Musty. My bad. I forgot. I was too busy trying to get up out of here because, I'm off to the next thing. Check this out. I forgot to tell you, I need for you to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys being here. Every time you see this chocolate man with these headphones and this doggone black glasses, you know you're finna get some good quality content. We over here talking with some sense over here, okay? I want you to let all you people know. Tell them to meet me every Sunday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook, YouTube, every streaming platform you can find. Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate your support, and I thank you. I'll catch you next time. All right? Peace.